Annette, myself, Patrick.
Hey, Barry, turn your volume up a little bit.
Mark.
Hey, Barry.
Yeah.
Can you turn your volume up a little bit?
No. I've got a new piece of hardware.
Oh, I can hear you. That's better now already.
All right, I'll just speak a little louder, I guess. I'll take it that way. Yeah, I got a new piece of hardware I'm working on for the first time tonight. Even to have the video, I'm kind of happy. All right, so let's see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I saw Monty somewhere. Monty, where's Monty?
I'm here.
Okay, all right. So we have full council. We're ready to go. So it's at 6 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get underway. Call into order our working briefing session at 6 o'clock. Notes for Tuesday, December the 15th of 2020. So this is our supplemental notice of meeting by video conference in accordance with an order of the Office of the Governor issued March 16, 2020, is extended by the Office of the Governor June 12, 2020. City Council.
Hey, Barry, we're still having a hard time hearing you all the way. I am, at least. I don't know if everybody else is.
Really?
Can hear you, but not very well.
I guess I got to talk straight at it. Does that work? That's better.
A little better.
To go on, so.
All right. Well, I'm in the. All right, I'll work on this. I don't have time to kick off this hardware and go back to do.
Okay. Can you call Kristen?
No, I know what I got to do. It's all here. Shoot. Hold on a second.
You think your earpiece will work better?
I'm sorry, Mark.
Think your earpiece will work better? You think you?
No, the mics are in the camera.
Okay.
They're integrated with the camera, and I guess if I'm not looking right at the camera, it's not picking up sound very well. That's better right there, probably, right? Okay. I'm going to have to kick off and go back to the old hardware. Need to reset. Since I'm not going to start, we're going to need to recess this. Take a, and I'll be right back as quickly as I can get the old hardware back. Recess at 6:03. Okay, I am back on my old hardware. So we'll reconvene at 6:05. Does that sound better all the way across? Okay. All right, good. Thank you. Sorry about that. My apologies. I'll have to work on the hardware. Okay. So we were at conducting our meeting in order to advance the public health goal of limiting face-to-face meetings, called social distancing, and have to slow the spread of coronavirus. We will be moving into our briefing and our work session. So the first item on that is item number 1, discuss the agenda items. And what I would like to do before Paul gets into discussing those the consent items, I would like to propose for us to move items 5A, 5B, and 5C to consent. And the reason for that is that these are simply the execution of the contracts, of the resolutions, and the actions taken by City Council previously to get work done. And all of these actions have been done in accordance with the procurement policies. Those procurement policies include going to the Black Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Regional Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Black Contractors Association, the North Texas Regional Certified Agency of Historically Utilized Businesses, the State of Texas Centralized Master List. So our procurement agent has done everything proper and legal in terms of getting these things ready. And of the 130 pages in our agenda packet tonight, most of those pages are the bids themselves. So what I would like to do, as I said, I would like to propose that items 5A, 5B, and 5C be moved to consent. I'm seeing affirmatives, if that's okay. Okay, so City Secretary and Paul, please make a note. Items 5A, 5B, 5C are being moved to consent. Thank you very much for that, council. And thanks to Sheila Baker for those procurement actions. Also want to mention housekeeping for, let's see, item 2B in our briefings and presentations. Sheila was going to be doing that for us tonight. Unfortunately, regrettably, she has had a very serious family emergency and cannot be in attendance tonight. So folks, we're going to have to postpone the discuss the purchasing initiative of underutilized business equity presentation. That's item 2B under briefings and presentations. So our thoughts and prayers are with Sheila and her family during this time. We'll reschedule that when Sheila becomes available. Okay, so Paul, turning it over to you, interim city manager, for the consent items.
Okay, Mayor, members of council, before you on the consent agenda is item A, consider the minutes from your joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission on October 19th. Also, city council minutes for your meeting of October 20th. There's item B is a resolution authorizing the second option to renew for an additional 1-year period for traffic maintenance with Siemens Mobility, estimated amount of $156,610. Mayor, members of the council, this is for major construction and maintenance as part of our traffic signal system. This, as you may recall, you had a couple other items that were before you previously. Those were for hardware items themselves or fixtures and those kind of things. This is for the basically major construction, major repairs, minor construction projects associated with our traffic maintenance system. Item C is a resolution considering our resolution of the canvass of returns and declarations of results for the runoff election of December 8th. New consent items. Item 5A, which is authorization of a bid to PaveCon for street reconstruction and surface utility improvements for the Duncanville road project from South Main Street to US 67, part of our capital bond project program, in the amount of $6,583,962.21. Item 5B is a resolution authorizing Green Tree water and wastewater utility improvements on Green Tree Lane for both water improvements and wastewater improvements, new pipe installation in the amount of $1,105,499.35. And then item 5C, which is a resolution approving a professional engineering services agreement for construction management services for the Duncanville Street and utility reconstruction project with Dunaway and Associates to manage that construction project in the amount of $157,030.00. And that is it, Mayor, members of council, for the consent agenda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frederickson. We'll be moving on in our briefings and presentation items to item number 2A. And this is a discussion on Fire Station number 1 design. And we have been provided some slides previously earlier this afternoon. But Mr. Ramey, the floor is yours, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. With me this evening is also Stephen Hilt. He's the architect from BRW Architects for the fire station design, and he'll be sharing this briefing. We'll be doing different alternating slides. Next slide, please. So here's, again, the timeline of this project. This started back in August of 2018 when we did a facility condition and needs assessment with Hewitt Zollers. And that's when one of the projects that was recommended was a new fire station. And at the time, they estimated the cost for that construction was $4.5 million. Moving forward to November of 18, we had a bond election authorizing $6 million in bonds for Fire Station 1, which included the EOC as well as buying the land for the new fire station. In December of 2019, we awarded the construction manager at risk contract to Core Construction to do the fire station construction project. We brought them on first because they were part of the source selection board that selected BRW architects for this design, which was awarded by council in May. In between May and December, we've done the schematic designs, we've done the site plans, and what we're coming to you tonight is to brief you on the floor plan, brief you on the site plan, and then present to you some concepts of the interior for your to get your feedback. Next slide, please. So this is the site plan. North is to the top of the screen. This is again on Camp Wisdom Road. Just a few parcels down to the west is existing fire station. And basically what's approximately across the street from this location is the Whataburger. And so the parking lot side of this parcel is the property that the city already owns. That's the old Duncanville Florist location where there's the cell tower. And then the property to the west is still in the process of acquiring that land. And what you'll see here again is parking sufficient for EOC when that's in operation, as well as parking for the firefighters' personal vehicles, as well as some circulation to allow the emergency vehicles to come in and get into the apparatus bay. Next slide, please. And this is the floor plan. Again, the top of the screen is north. So that's the top of the screen reflects what would be pointing towards Camp Wisdom Road. This floor plan has been gone back and forth between the fire chief, the assistant fire chief, and the architects to lay out their requirements, both for vehicles as well as their personnel and the EOC. So this has been, again, multiple iterations of conversations between the fire department and the architects to get us to this point. As you'll notice, it sleeps, has room for 10 firefighters, as well as the supporting facilities, both for latrines, day room, kitchen, and then all of their equipment. Next slide, please.
Greg, quick question.
Sir?
Yeah, just want to make sure on that backup slide that it's kind of hard to tell from what we've seen, but I'm sure that accommodations have been made for both male and female firefighters in this new facility.
Yes, all of the latrine facilities are private and all of the bedrooms are private.
Hey, while you're there, then I was going to wait, Greg, to the end, but you say there's enough for 10. What does it currently sleep now? And how many do we anticipate there will be in the fire station?
I'll turn that over to the fire chief to answer.
And if you want to wait until the end, you're more than welcome.
Okay. Yeah, I'll defer anything that relates to the operations of the fire station to the police chiefs. I turned it over to them to make sure that this fire station met all of their requirements, and I purposely tried to not influence them unduly in terms of how they want their fire station to operate.
Then why don't you proceed and I'll wait to the end?
Sure. Okay, sir. Next slide, please. So this is the a rundown of the budget as it stands today. And again, we've got multiple items on the left, and we had the amount that we budgeted for each of those features of work. Then the actual estimate. So the blue is the actuals, and then black is the estimate. Over and under again show how we're looking on the budget itself. The main thing that I want to point out is between when we did the Hewitt-Zollars needs assessment and today, we found that the pricing for construction is significantly gone up. And so what we've found is that with the least expensive option, which we'll show you in a slide or two, that still created a $1.4 million shortfall. We were able to make it up within the program by some cost savings in the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, by carrying over, being able to cross-level a lot of the existing equipment in the Fire Station 1 over to the new fire station. I'm pointing out again the radio equipment, the workout equipment, some of the appliances, some of the other equipment that they have. And then we were able to get some land acquisition savings because we only needed to secure 2 parcels instead of the originally planned for 3. From talking with the city manager about the shortfall, he was able to assign the cost savings from the roof project of $876,000 to cover the shortfall within the bond program. And so right now, when we go in, we'll be able to afford with just these, the bond and then the roof cost savings, the least expensive option. Again, we'll show that to you in a few slides. Any questions about the budget? Next slide, please. So what I did is I asked Core Construction to, they live in the construction world, and asked them to help me put together some slides that show the escalation of pricing. So what I like to point out again is in the bond election, everything was based off of January 2018, but come bond election, we were already up 5%. Cost had escalated. And as you look over, we had a slight dip during COVID lockdown. We were hoping for more significant dip, but the recovery was very rapid. And so now what we're looking at is prices that are 11+% higher than what they were back in January 2018. And 6% plus 6 points higher than when the bond was originally approved. So I'm sure you guys have seen it. The construction is booming across the Metroplex, and so all, prices are going up all around, both with labor and materials.
Hey, Greg, we knew that. I think we guess everybody knew that coming in. But what was the figure you used pre-COVID that we thought that?
So when we originally put together, excuse me, the bond package, the pricing that we were the basis for our construction, based on that the Hewitt-Zollars needs assessment that we brought in, they gave us a number of $4.5 million for a fire station. And as you see from the previous slide, the lowest cost is coming in at about $5.3 million.
It's already coming back up. It is.
Okay.
Councilmember, when you asked the question, you make the comment that we knew that we were going to see this. I don't think anybody would have anticipated this kind of price escalation. I think the other thing that needs to be kept in mind is again, the Metroplex is seeing a heavy migration of people into the Metroplex, which is obviously causing property values to go up, housing need to be met, but also too, a number of Metroplex cities have gone and issued and had bond programs. Those are things that we would not be able to anticipate. We wouldn't be able to account for those. Each of the major capital improvement projects. So those also, at least in the municipal side, help escalate those costs as well. And I think probably we could also ask Core to speak to that, since they're very familiar with that market.
So Paul, let me read. I'm glad you said that. Let me redirect how I was asking that. I was more so saying to us that we knew, or I thought we built into it, knowing that by the time we got ready to build this, that pricing was going to change at some point. So I thought we had built something into it. And again, not knowing we needed this much built into it, I thought we built something into it for price adjustment along the way, since we did this early before we got started. Did we not?
I think we did, but not to this escalation.
Oh yeah, no. That's
I mean, no, absolutely. We would see that on not only having to take down the land as well, but also to your point about the price escalation. Yeah, I mean, I think there was that built in. I can't tell you exactly what that was, but not to this degree.
Oh no, that's what I was asking. That's what I was asking.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes, and like you said, we assumed 4.5, but we asked for 6.
Okay.
Help cover some of that, but it did not. The bond did not end up, by the time we got to here, did not cover the price, and so we had to find other funding sources.
And let me know if this is later or included in this. Did we include perhaps using whatever we're going to do with that with the existing building as a part of using those funds for this project at all? What do we do with that building?
No, but that was definitely an option that was out there, that we could do something with that building later on and take advantage of it. But as Greg mentioned, we were able to realize the cost savings with the roof project, and also we'll talk more about land issues as well. And I think Councilmember Harvey is well.
So what is the possibility that additional debt can be sold to cover the overage?
That I think I'll have to defer to Richard, but I think we're at our capacity as far as any additional debt. But I'd have to defer to Richard. I think go ahead, Richard.
What you said is correct, Paul. When we issued the bonds, we issued the maximum amount that we could at that time, and without raising the tax rate. So our capacity is full with unless you want to consider raising the tax rate.
Hey, well, I think Councilman Harvey, I'm thinking of this, and I think you may be thinking this as well. Let me know if you're not. Where I'm thinking, if we sold that building, whatever we're going to do, could we not use the proceeds for this project as well? That's kind of that's where I was going with that.
Certainly an option, and I think that's something we can visit about. Absolutely.
So is there any money in the reserve fund, in the general fund, or any projects that can be postponed in the one-time money to provide additional funding for the fire station?
Councilmember Harvey, we'd have to look and see which ones we'd want to defer and probably come back, but certainly.
I mean, public safety is very important, I would think, right?
I agree. Again, I think as Greg goes on, I think we have found the savings and have made, I think, some equitable adjustments, and I think that we're pretty close. Again, utilizing the roof project was a one-time project in and of itself. We were very fortunate to get a very favorable bid on that project and be able to roll. So we're using those monies. So we're using that one-time project and those savings, and we certainly can look for more. But I think we're pretty close. I think we've done a pretty good job. And I think if we talk about the land costs, we can have savings there. So I think we're pretty close.
I'm not there.
Okay, Greg can continue.
Okay, next slide, please. So again, this is just a comparison of a bunch of other fire stations that we were able to pull data on from from core construction. These dollars that you'll see in square foot are all adjusted to 2020. So we're sort of comparing apples to apples. And again, the highest, which was up in Westlake, was at $600 a square. And then right now, again, the least cost option for the Duncanville fire station reflects a square foot or a price per square foot of $348. And then you can just you can see some renderings or photos of the other fire stations. And the Roy City one was just recently awarded earlier this year at 462. And you can see the rendering on that one with the gables. Next slide, please. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen, and he'll run through the three options. And I see a note that he's been muted by the moderator, so we could get him unmuted so he can brief, please.
It looks like it's been released,
There you go.
but my video is still turned off. There we go. All right. Yes. So this is represents our first design option. It is the most cost-effective one, as Greg has reviewed, and we think it's a handsome option for this location. And it kind of uses some of the exposed structure as a way to improve the architectural interest and still be very efficient with the structure, the use of the pre-engineered structure that we're using for this facility to keep the cost contained. So it is more of a, I guess, contemporary look, which I think is appropriate to this neighborhood and some of the other structures that are around here. And we've done everything we can to maintain materials that are good quality and are going to last a long time, but that are economical to make sure that we focus our dollars to where it takes care of all of the needs that the fire department has for this facility. We can go to the next one. The second one is kind of a variation on that option. If it should be an issue to have exposed structure, if that was to be considered not something that the council favored, we thought that we should have this option as another backup. So it conceals all of the structure behind walls and pilasters. It also provides kind of a gable front to Camp Wisdom, which is somewhat of a traditional form for a fire station. Another advantage of this one, if we could afford it, would be that it affords the possibility to create a larger storage and mechanical mezzanine above some of the living spaces. Storage is always at a premium in fire stations and something that they're tight on today. So again, it's a higher budget than that one, and the additional mezzanine is not calculated into the numbers we have currently, but it would allow that possibility. Part of the reason that we have the exposed structure on both of these options over on the, I guess, the far left-hand side is the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, is required by code to be a what's called an ICC 500 rated storm shelter, which means essentially that it is that room is designed to withstand an F5 tornado type wind force and protect the inhabitants of that space for 2 hours. so that they could be rescued, and it helps the survivability of the Emergency Operations Center itself. And so a pre-engineered structure is not constructible to that level. So essentially we are needing to create a shell of the water resisting portion of the building, the roof and the exterior structure around a hardened storm shelter, which sits underneath that space. So in all three of these options, that's the case. We can go to the third one. And option 3, there we go. So option 3 is the one that is has the most cost associated with it. And again, it's not that the others are not just as attractive. In fact, I kind of favor one of the others myself, but this one is a very traditional look on the fire station. It's more kind of the Chicago, New York type of tradition of fire station imagery. It creates a parapet look around. It completely conceals that this is a pre-engineered structure from all the front sides as you would view it from the main facade along Camp Wisdom. But it is, in creating those parapets, that is something that we lose a little bit of the cost efficiency of the pre-engineered structure to build those walls and stiffen them to the level that we need to, because a fire station and EOC are structures that require a higher level of wind resistance in of themselves, not just a storm shelter. So that structure has to get beefed up a little bit if we were to do this type of arrangement. All right, so any questions on these options?
I'd like to see number 1 again, option 1. There's not a lot of difference between 1 and 2.
Yes, 2 is more just kind of hiding the structure, the steel portion of the structure behind pilasters. And as I said, giving us the opportunity for a larger mezzanine if we should be able to afford it.
Hey, I'm sorry, go ahead, James.
Well, I was going to say, what was the difference in the cost in 1 and 2?
That kind of gets into Greg's next slide.
Oh,
It's approximately 200, about 200,000 between just, and I'll summarize them in the main slide. But again, just as we look at the blow-ups of each of these for consideration, option 1 is 5.4. Option 2 is 5.3 and some change. Option 2 is 5.5 million. Option 3 is 5.8 million.
and you said option 1 was 5.4, then 2 was 5.3?
No, 5.5.
Okay, 5.4, 5.5, and then 5.8.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Just a question if she's completed, and that is this upper level? The upper level, you may have seen that, I missed it. Is this upper level like a second floor?
There are 2 mezzanines incorporated into the design for, if you can go back to slide the 4.
There we are.
You'll see a storage mezzanine off to the, on the west above the extraction, and then another mechanical mezzanine sort of over the.
That's over the workroom, workshop, and some of the restrooms.
Yeah.
So this storage is up on the second floor.
Yes, as a mezzanine. There's a technical difference in how the code views a mezzanine from a full second floor in terms of needing elevator and a second stair. Yeah, one of them is the mechanical mezzanine is air handlers, water heater type mechanical equipment that supports the living quarters. And the storage mezzanine is all the overflow storage that our department needs to accommodate.
So there would be no there would be no opportunity for future growth of the facility by using the second floor at any point later.
No, I mean, this facility does not have space on the site for a significant, I guess, addition without reconfiguring all the paving and so forth behind it. And width-wise, we're pretty constrained. There is a little bit of extra volume. We could make that storage mezzanine, as you can see, a little larger by extending it over the riser room and an electrical room, which is certainly possible if we can afford the additional area. There's not a lot more we can do on the mechanical mezzanine side. It can maybe be slightly larger, but there's not the volume under the shell to put a full second floor over the structure.
All right, thank you.
Can you go back to slide 11, please? Chief Rhodey, Chief Chase, do y'all want to share your, provide your input, please?
Mr. Ramey, I prefer the option 2 myself. I think it's an attractive addition to the Camp Wisdom corridor up there and the city of Duncanville. It seems a little more conservative, I guess what we'd say. I like the ability that it has 10 sleeping areas for both men and women, and they're individual. And that should leave us room for expansion in the future. And it will house the people that we currently have and students that come in to ride with us, and also room for firefighters if they want to come in on bad weather. They're there in the morning during shift change. So I prefer 2, but again, it's up to the city council to make that decision. Chief Chase, do you have any additional comments?
We did meet with all of the firefighters. We had several rounds of meetings. The options they preferred was option 2 and option 3. Option 2 won out by a couple of votes. Option 3 was more or less, kind of my idea of what some of the buildings in Duncanville were looking like the Pelt Lodge, main station. Some of the school buildings had that old warehousey type look to it, and it was just another option besides the contemporary look that would fit into that neighborhood. The contemporary type stuff, if you want to, it was just an idea to fit into the neighborhood.
Councilmember Veracruz, Mayor Gordon have their hands up.
Yes, sir, Councilman Veracruz.
Yeah, Chief answered my question. If the firefighters got a chance to look at it, for 1, and 2, have they been out to Station 32 in Dallas to maybe walk around and take a look at it? Was one of my questions.
Points.
We did not go to Station 32. We have been to numerous stations, or around the Metroplex, Louisville. I know we went to a couple of them there, several other ones. We went to San Marcos and looked at theirs, and we pretty much got their floor plan from a station they had. But as far as the exterior of the buildings go, we've been to numerous ones and looking online, trying to, find something that fits our neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah, my second question you answered, which was which option they considered for themselves. So, well, thank you very much, Chief. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Mayor Gordon and Councilmember Cooks also have their hands up.
Yeah, Chief Rhodey and Chief Chase, I want to get some clarification in terms of your personal choices of going with options 2 or 3 and the firefighters themselves. What I'm understanding from what the architects have said, that all of the interior designs meet the operational requirements of our fire station. That your choices in terms of what option you prefer, so it sounds to me that you're saying it's based on aesthetics and the complexion of it rather than the operational requirement. So it's important to me to understand that like the inside of the building does everything that it needs to do for what we need to be operationally good for. But the options that you said that the firefighters and you prefer are on aesthetics, on what the puppy looks like. So clarify that for me, please, because it's very important that we're looking at a dollar shortfall in terms of budget. We're looking, if you like option 2, you like option 3, okay, we're looking at, up to $500,000 more to go with option 3 if it's pretty. But if the guts of these all 3 options meet the operational requirements, then I think we've got to be good stewards. And there's really, I don't see that much wrong with how option number 1 fits into the community and fits into the neighborhood itself. So Chief, help me understand your decision on that part in terms of option you prefer.
Well, Mayor, when we worked with BRK on the design of the thing, I was very adamant about that. I wanted to make sure that we had a good flow, an operational flow for our guys when they were to wake up in the middle of the night to go on a call, that they had the least amount of travel time to get to these fire apparatus so that we reduce that time out of the doors. We also made sure that the guys had what they needed to operate. Restroom facilities were very important to the guys so that they could make on that flow. We really worked hard with BRK on the flow. That was very important so that we reduced time to call. So I really do like the way that option 2 flows operationally to get the fire equipment in, get the fire equipment out, get the guys to the equipment so that they can respond. And if they have to do the human necessities of using the restroom in the middle of the night, that they're available on the flow. And that's what we really work towards. The fire station, as Chief Chase mentioned, we really do like to try to fit in the neighborhood. The neighborhood, we want the aesthetics of the neighborhood so it fits in and has a good appeal to the public as they come around. So that's why we liked option 2. Again, the flow to work in option 1, option 2, option 3. But then again, you still want a good aesthetic look for the city of Duncanville as far as that Camp Wisdom corridor.
And let me just clarify, I think for your question, Mayor Gordon, the floor plan that you saw back on like slide 4 applies to all of these. And so truly what you're looking at with all of these is coming to you for your input and direction regarding what you hit on the head, which is what does it look like from the outside? Which of these plans, what is your input on what do you want the building to look like from the outside? Because in all 3 of those options, the interior layout that you see here on slide 4 is unchanged.
Okay, well, I'm glad you said that, Greg, because Chief Rhodey was going down a trail that gave me some concern because he was saying that, option 2, he was implying, maybe unintentionally, that the option 2 had a different floor plan. But now what you're seeing, this is what I understood when I was looking at this floor plan. This floor plan is consistent throughout all the construction options. The only thing changing in the options is the exterior construction in terms of what it looks like.
Front elevation, that's right, yes, sir.
Okay, so Chief, you had me a little concerned there for a bit, and Greg, I appreciate the clarification. So operational flow that the firefighters and Chief Chase and Chief Rhodey are concerned about, it fits no matter which option we pick, and option 1 still least cost fits all the operational requirements and desirability that our firefighters have given to us. Am I correct in making that statement?
That is correct.
Okay.
You just need to pick out what's going to be standing in your city for the next
40 years.
40 to 50 years.
Okay. Well, it's a tough call, but being the best possible stewards of the monies that we have to find. And as Patrick has said, we have a shortfall that I guess somewhere we're going to see that's going to be made up. And of course, going back to one comment that the Mark made, that we have all intentions of repurposing that old fire station into something that's going to produce income for us. How it's sold and how it's developed are other issues. So,
Just real quick to answer Mr. Cook's question, currently fire station number 1 sleeps 9. We have 9 beds and 1 fold down bed. So we can sleep 10 there. Clarify what Chief Rhodey was saying about coming in prior to bad weather, like we have ice coming in or a snowstorm, something like that. The firefighters from the shift coming on duty, a lot of times they'll drive in the night before and stay there. So we could have up to, 12, 15 firefighters, and they find a place to sleep. They'll sleep in the chairs or throw some blankets on the floor, something like that. But yeah, we can fill it up very quickly.
okay, thank
And the
you.
main distinction is that like one right now is basically open bay. And then this one here is all private rooms.
That is correct.
Councilmember Cooks?
So I was going to say on that then. So we're really from a room standpoint, a sleeping quarter standpoint, we're really not improving our position other than the privacy, which is important. The privacy of the firefighters, which again is important. But as far as capacity, we still at about 10. What our current station is doing sounds like what I'm hearing. Is that right?
10 full-time beds.
Okay, so that's about the same.
Yeah, 10 beds on a bed frame. How's that? The other one doesn't have a bed frame to it. But yes, 10, it'd be 10 in both stations.
So at 10 of both stations. So we're improving the look of it, the sleeping quarters of it, but not to the capacity of being able to sleep more firefighters.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. The other question, I do love the point of we want to make sure we fit in within the community, but I'm gonna twist this in another route and say, though the fire station fits in with the community, I love it to stand out even more so, to be beautification more so of the community versus fitting in. I've heard the word that I see contemporary on option 1 and option 2. As I think about going back to the parks, when we're getting ready to do with the parks, I think that's a contemporary stage when we're doing the parks, redoing the parks like Harrington Parks and the other parks. And so, do we take in consideration, and I don't know if this is for the chief or the architect, do we take in consideration of, should everything look differently, or should everything kind of, now we have a chance to have some new upcoming structures, should it all look similar? Should it look should it be fairly different when we talk about now have an opportunity to improve our standing with new structures?
Yeah, I can take that. Yes, we do want to, by whatever option we build, make this enhancement to the neighborhood, and we feel like we can do that with any of these massing options. And if you look around the neighborhood as it is there's a lot of potential for development and redevelopment, that this neighborhood could grow in a very positive way, and we want to support that in the architecture that we provide. That's very important to BRW, and I think to the city as well. It's always been one of our goals. You could compare it to some of the other fire stations that were on Greg's list, and you can say, well, there's more stone and some other things in there that people consider higher end finishes in some of those, but we are prioritizing the fire department's operational needs first. And you can see that in the floor plan that we put together. We worked hard with the fire department and the city officials to optimize the cost efficiency of the structure. As the chief said, the flow of the station. That's where we started, is making sure that we take care of the operational needs. And then we wanted to bring council here some options of different ways that the building might look, and make sure that we're meeting your expectations from that standpoint as well.
And again, thank you, Mr. Head. I think that's important. And and I'm sure the firefighters will probably enjoy having a better inside than the outside, but I'm just looking at cosmetic from the outside as well. Have you looked at the new structures that we're looking at for our parks? And I know these are two different buildings, but I'm talking about the contemporary look. Have you looked at any of our structures that we're proposing for any new structures in Duncanville? And how does that compare, if you can compare it?
We did not provide them with the park designs. The guidance so far that they've received is to look at the existing building architecture that we see on Main Street and then in the Camp Wisdom area. And I pointed out that, you know, probably one of the newest commercial buildings in Duncanville was One Main Station of all the buildings. And again, one of the visions that I provided to them was, you know, when it comes to Camp Wisdom, again, within our budget, was that we wanted any new development that was the Camp Wisdom sort of use our fire station maybe as their inspiration for their next endeavor. But in terms of your question, sir, we did not provide them with what the park snack or whatever they were, you know, recreation buildings that were being built.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Greg. That's all my questions. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Councilmember Jameson had her hand up too.
Yes.
Kristen, I don't know the order.
I was going to say that I think, I don't know if you've said it, I've had some trouble with my internet, and it's trying to update me to a 5.4 Zoom, whatever that means. But to remind the guys that when this fire station was built, they did not have women firemen or fire people. And so when you're talking about those rooms, they had to provide privacy because that would not be a good thing for women. Also, I wanted to ask that looked like you had 6 bathrooms. Is that how many bathrooms?
I believe that's correct, Ms. Jameson.
And how many were in the old one?
We had 2 private bathrooms and 1, I guess, community bathroom with 3 sinks, 2 stalls and a urinal, and 2 open showers.
Oh my goodness, so that's a big improvement with bathroom facilities.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's what I counted, and I wasn't sure if that was true. And I thought it was kind of amusing, the word you used for the flow of the bathroom facilities. But I think that is a big positive step, that you have private rooms and you've increased the number of bathrooms.
Yes, ma'am. The bathrooms, they address the problem of, you know, the people on duty. Are you going to have 6 people in the bathroom at all the time? No. But when you have shift change, you got people coming in and out. You have 12 to 13 people there at one time.
Right. And you never know if you're going to have 6 people in the bathroom. Unfortunately, that's not planned. I think that's a big positive.
Councilman Anderson?
Yes, I think, first of all, you know, I think the site plan, I appreciate the way, you know, the site plan is part of the architecture too, and I appreciate you moving the building close to the road and the way you know, that's part of the architecture, and I think you did a good job, and I think all the plans are well done. And since the operations are the same inside, I think that we have a responsibility to the taxpayers, since we're going over, to go with number 1, you know, to go with the lowest price. But I think you've done a good job. I think it's got to look good. I think the Main Street architecture is more squared off at the top, like Main Station and the Masonic Lodge and some of the other, and that has the Main Street look. But Camp Wisdom has a potential to evolve, I think, into somewhat of a contemporary space over there, because it doesn't really have a defined architecture really on Main Street. And so I think the architects, Greg, and you and the architects have done a really good job. And I think number one, I'd like number two, but I think number one is good also. And since it's lower in price and we have a responsibility to try to meet the budget as best we can, I think that's what we should do. But I think you did a good job. I think you've done a good job keeping the price down. I can tell you this right now, just in buying 2x4s right now, we used to pay $2 or $3 for a 2x4. Now we're paying $10. So everything has gone up. I mean, we would have never imagined it had gone up that much. But that being said, I still think we have a responsibility to keep the price down, and they all look pretty good. And so I think you guys have done a really good job.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Mac Burnett, I saw that you had your hand up too, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ramey. I had a question really regarding maintenance on the buildings as well. Over the long term, what's going to be easier to maintain?
Well, that was something that I know when we even going all the way back to our conversations when we were interviewing and making our final choice on a BRW as our designers, was conversations about maintainability of our structure. And so again, the structure, looking at option one, is pretty much structural steel studs, pre-engineered building, brick. We're using all the materials that have very durable. Later on in the process, after we get past the discussion on what we want the outside to look like, and we start progressing with the designs, we'll bring in our facility manager to make sure that he can speak into what materials we're speccing on the inside of the building, so that again he can take care of them. I've been in many buildings overseas where the materials and the equipment that were put in them did not survive the first light bulb going out. So we definitely want to make sure everything in these buildings are things that I think Chief Chase said is like, that we can get down at Home Depot. We want to make sure we have a building that is easy to maintain, has materials that are easy to acquire, and that can go the distance. The goal again is that this facility goes 40 years.
I think it, Greg, that Assistant Chief Chase was wanting to get a Popular Mechanics Award with how reasonable maintenance would be on any of these projects. He wants to speak to that.
Absolutely. We just want to make it functionable and look good for the city.
And firefighter proof.
And firefighter proof.
So when are we going to get to discussing how to make up the $1.4 million bogey?
Well, sir, if you can you go back to slide 5, please? So where we've made up the shortfall is through the cost savings from the roof project. So right now, based on the cost estimates that the 5.391477 number that you see there is the latest, is the number provided by Core Construction based on all their cost estimates and their knowledge of the construction market in relative real time. And so right now, the shortfall that's projected would be covered by the cost savings from the roof project. If prices go up a little bit more, then we would have to regroup with the city manager and go from there. But again, this is the pricing that we have based on the design and Core Construction's last estimates for this job.
I'm trying to understand the matrix that I see here, Greg. So
Okay.
the number to be concerned with is the 1.637 and disregarding the 760 and the 876 because those are inconsequential to making up the $1.4 million bogey. It's strictly the 160, the 1.637. Is that correct?
Negative, sir. The 1.637 reflects the original price of the roof project.
Yeah.
760 was the actual, and so the $876,000 is the short. What you should be focusing on is the over/under column, sir.
And that's what I thought. So if we, so
Yes, sir.
actually our shortfall is 1.4 million minus 876.
No, sir, because we have cost savings from the land and the furniture. So when we look within our program, we have a shortfall of $877,000, and we're able to bring $876,750 out of the roof project savings to cover the $877,000 shortfall.
Now,
So your shortfall then is $400.
that explanation right there finally cleared things up for me, Greg. Right there. Okay.
Sorry, Councilmember Harvey, you had something and I didn't catch it. I apologize.
No problem. I was just saying it appears as if the shortfall is about $400.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
We'll pass the hat.
All right. Yeah. You can
We'll,
pass
we'll,
your
we'll
own
find
hat.
that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I get the matrix now because it wasn't making sense until you just put that all together for me. All right. All right. So going back to what, I said originally and what Monty Anderson has said as well, the best possible stewards we can be is for option one. And that's how we get this thing covered. Because if we go with option two, we have to find another $134,000. And that means we don't have it covered. We got to come up with that from somewhere. So I guess what you're looking for is some kind of consent from us tonight, that to go with which option. What are you looking for from us?
Well, tonight was your feedback if these work, and then what I was going to do in a follow-on council meeting was bring a resolution for you to actually select the one you wanted, and so something a little bit more formal than the straw poll before we went ahead on the design, sir.
So if council opts for least cost, which is option one, does that mean Chief Rhodey and Chief Chase are still going to like us, or they're not going to like us? Oh, it's debatable. Is that right, Chief Chase?
Did I take myself off of mute? I'm sorry. The whole thing I want is this building's going to be there for a long, long time. Is this what you want in that neighborhood? I do think Councilmember Anderson had a good point. Up and down Main Street, they are squared off. They are warehousey looking, and that's the reason option 3 was in there, in my opinion, because there was no, I guess, design, something to follow up and down Camp Wisdom. There's just not a whole lot there. So that was the reason you were given the different options. What do you want in that neighborhood as a city council? What would you like to see up there for the next, 30, 40, 50 years? That's the same way Station 1 was. It was built in 1966, and it's been there ever since. So that building's going to be there a long time, and we need your input on the design. If not, we'll build that Westlake design.
You go past.
Cruz has his hand up.
All right, Mr. Cooks.
Who had their hand up, Kristen?
Councilmember Veracruz has his hand up.
Yes, sir. So just a little bit of input, and this, of course, this is just from a firefighter's perspective. And I know option 1 is the least expensive, but you got to understand that these firefighters are going to spend a third of their life in and out of this building. And so, we want to give them something that they appreciate and are proud of. understanding that we should be good stewards of the money, but a little bit more isn't going to hurt. So if I had to choose, I'd go with option 2 myself.
That little bit more is $134,000. That's not passing the hat like Greg Ramey wants us to do. That's $134,000.
Yes, sir.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Veracruz. Any other last inputs before we move on?
I think if they'll bring back maybe option 1 and 2 to us, and then let us give us some time to think about it. And of course, when we're ready to move forward, we can make our decision then. Unless they just need to know right now.
No, this was, this is the input that we needed. I think everyone's comments were extremely helpful. So if we need to come and look at, as was brought up before, and looking at other one-time projects or some other areas, we can most certainly do that and provide those options. But this is really more important, I think, to the point of what does Duncanville want to see on Camp Wisdom? What's the architecture? We know we've got the interior that is meeting the needs of the fire department. They've done a fantastic job. I think the team has done a fantastic job with the fire department, with our architects. And so this is the input that we needed. So
let me ask, can I ask Councilman Anderson something? Anderson, does option 1 look like the Harrington Park roof that we talked about with that slant that we all know and like from the park department? Now you liked it. I'm just wondering if that's
I like a more contemporary look, and I don't think it's too far out there. But I think number 1 or number 2 are both got to look really good. I don't think it's going to make any difference to the quality of life of anyone. In fact, the citizens is the ones who's got to look at it, just as much as anybody does. But number 1 is a good looking building. There's nothing wrong with number 1. If it looked bad, because this has got a potential like Mr. Ramey was saying, to set the tone along there. But number 1 doesn't look bad. If it looked bad, I would say, yeah, I agree with Councilmember Veracruz, but it doesn't look bad. I don't think it's too contemporary like the one at the park that we were, I was more in favor of the contemporary one out there that was way contemporary. This is still, this is not that out there contemporary. It's clean lines. It's simple is good. It functions good. It's setting on the site good. That's more important. The way it's, to me, from an architectural standpoint, the way it sets on the site up close to the road is much more important than the architecture, the form, and that's called form. And the architects can tell you more about that, but the building form is really good either way for any of them. So number 2, I like number 2 also, but I just don't think number 1 and number 2 look good. I just don't think it's responsible of us when we're over, and I don't think it's going to hurt any of the people that work there. It still looks good. It's very good look. It's a very attractive building either way.
Okay, thank you.
So Greg, I think in summation, the best thing to do, what we'd be looking for when you come back with something formal, is option number 1 and option number 2. And since there is a larger shortfall for option number 2, explain in some way how that $134,000 has to be made up, other than passing the hat for the $400 shortfall we have on option number 1.
Yes, sir. And then I've got a few other slides about the public forum, which may also provide you with some other input. So let me go to the next slide, please. So we do plan on doing a public forum, again, for your input, but what we were looking at was a Thursday, the evening of Thursday, the 14th of January. At that time, we would review the existing site conditions. That's when the architects are going to go through and talk about the site plan, the floor plan, do a 3D model of the fire station in SketchUp. So taking that option 1 that you saw, sort of just the isometric design, and being able to move it around and let people see what it's going to look like, and then get just some questions, ask for questions and feedback from the public. Does this structure of a forum, again, because this will be in the same Zoom environment, do you have any input on that, or does this work for y'all?
I think that's a workable plan. That in knowing that we're really pushing this thing out into the end of January before any kind of decisions can be made formally. So once we get public input, then we'll move from there. Okay.
Yes, sir. And then
I think that maybe the city ought to get together with all your departments and see if there is 133,645 that you could find, because I agree that there's not that much difference, but I do think that number 2 is more attractive. And if we have the building for 50 years, I would rather have the most attractive one.
Good input. Okay.
And then next slide, please. We'll run through the next steps. Again, tonight we did the briefing session to get your input about the exterior design. And I'm tracking on option 1 and option 2 again, as well as a plan to cover both options depending on council's final vote. We also received your input about the public forum. Again, the 14th, based on your input, will be the public forum, and the architects will put that together. We would be looking at bringing, based on a 14 January public forum, we would come back on February 2nd for the individual consideration item of the final exterior concept. And then that will release the architect to finish their design. So we're looking at this summer, having the final designs to core construction for their final review and pricing. And then we'll be bringing that final contract, the guaranteed maximum price to council again later in the summer, and then construction would start. And and then in fall of 2022, so a little over a year, we anticipate construction being complete. Are there any other questions?
The only thing I would ask in closing, we have the architects with us, and we also, I think we've got the CMAR with us. So are there any questions that they have that they need answers to from us as a council at this point? Or are we good to go?
Stephen, do you have any other?
I think we've got the answers that we need in terms of how we address the community forum, and we'll bring that input back to you as you've requested.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much.
Jeff, what about you from core construction?
No, I think it's been a good discussion, and I think we're anxious to get started once the decision's made on the direction we'd like to go. I think just kind of from a State of the Union construction market, I think the time is good, but the sooner we can get released, the more advantageous the pricing will be. And so we're anxious to move this thing forward, but looking forward to a decision and anxious to get started.
Councilmember Cooks has his hand up.
Hey, last question. I know we got the 14th for the public forum. How possible is it to get that information out way before the 14th in order to give the citizens some energy to start looking at it, have some discussions, and then on the 14th, the public forum is not the first time they're seeing the drawings. So the question is, can we get this out before the 14th into the public and be ready for the 14th to discuss it?
We will work diligently toward that.
And put the prices with it too, not just so they get to see everything.
Okay. I mean, again, these presentations are made available as well to the public, but we'll make sure we get that information out.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate everybody's participation and good, healthy discussion input for CORE and for our architects. And thanks to them for their participation tonight. We are at 7:15 and we still have one more item left to go for our briefing session. And that is item 2C. It's discussion on assembling a citizen committee to discuss and recommend street bond projects. Mr. Frederickson, want to take that, please?
Well, Mayor, members of council, this item was requested by Council Member Harvey, so I'm going to defer to him on direction.
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
We have you.
Okay. The reason why I asked for this item to be put on the agenda is that I wanted to gauge to see if there was any interest among you in reassembling the bond committee to develop recommendations for capital spending that would qualify under the bond ordinance. There is the $1.5 million that is still out there, as far as I know, undesignated. So I just wanted to see if there was interest among you in doing that, or as another option, maybe not doing anything at all. Another option could possibly be, as we were listening to the presentation on the fire station, I was thinking to myself, given the overage, that maybe the thing to do as far as the $1.5 million on the bonds is to just not do anything on that, and then just sell certificates of obligation for that 1.5 million to cover the overage in the fire station. But as it turned out, it appears as if staff were able to figure that shortfall out. So anyway, I just wanted to bring it back up again and see if there was a consensus on what to do, if anything, about the 1.5 million.
Patrick, I have some thoughts based on what you just said in terms of should we reassemble a committee. Don't know if it needs to be the same individuals that were on the bond committee or not, but at the last Regional Transportation Committee from COG, so North Central Texas Council of Governments meeting, there was a very significant presentation given by one of the staff members on the condition of roads and bridges within the 16 counties that comprise the COG. And the county's in bad shape. So what that tells me is that the input that COG has is also being channeled down to our city, and that Mr. Frederickson and Mr. Ramey are fully aware of the condition of our roads. In fact, I remember, just shooting off from the hip, I remember some presentation a while back in which we were presented with the condition of our roads and the 3 different tiers on how those roads are evaluated and where those monies needed to be spent. The idea of bringing together our citizens to look at that list of where our roads need significant work, not just repair, but they are in such poor shape as needing reconstruction. I don't even know if $1.5 million is adequate enough to do anything on some of the roads that are necessary for total reconstruction. I'd have to defer to our professionals in that regard. There's the possibility of asking staff to present to us once again a road condition matrix and let us take a look at all those and the possible costs and see what we want to do and moving forward with that. So I don't have any answers. I don't know if anybody has any answers, but it's a good question. It's a good thing to think about because that $1.5 million is unallocated. And where should we use it? It's a good possibility, again, using it toward that shortfall of the fire station. So I'm just going to open it up for a few minutes, if we can, to see what kind of inputs there are, see if anybody has any other thoughts.
Well, I think one important piece that I'd like to mention, and I don't think this is what Councilmember Harvey was suggesting about, each of the 4 propositions as they were voted on, those monies can only be earmarked for those types of improvements. So for example, proposition
A through D have to be used for those type of projects, park projects, street projects, general city facility projects, or the fire station project. So we wouldn't be able to transfer the 1.5 over to any other type of bond projects, number one. Number two, you're mentioning maintenance. The PMI, or the pavement measurement index, is what we use for road maintenance. The 1.5 are bond funds that will have to be used for a project that will go with the length of the bonds themselves. It has to be a large, 20-year type project. To Councilmember Harvey's point, we did, there were a number of projects that were presented to the bond committee when it was first formed that they had an opportunity to look at. And so we have those projects that we can go back and present to the council or to the bond committee, whatever the council wishes to do. But bearing in mind that those monies have to be used for a reconstruction project that has at least a 20-year lifespan.
So let me respond to that, Paul. You are correct that the community has to follow the language of the bond ordinance in doing the projects. However, just because bonds are authorized do not necessarily mean they have to be issued. So in this case, we have extenuating circumstances that what those bonds were set up to do, they were not able to do. So we simply don't issue those bonds, okay? But we still have 1.5 of capacity. So then just do certificates of obligation. Hold up. Okay. Let's do certificates of obligation to use for, whatever purpose.
But let me let Richard speak to that because I believe they've been issued. Richard, do you want to speak to Councilmember Harvey's point?
Yes, I do. We issued all the bonds. We sold all the bonds and took all the proceeds in. And so that option to not issue is not on the table. And so the bonds are, and that money would have to be spent for, as Paul reiterated, they would have to be spent for some similar type road construction project that has at least a 15 to 20 year lifespan.
Well, I guess I'm kind of curious because once you sell debt, is there not a time frame in which the building or the project must be completed? Somehow 3 years comes to my mind, or else you run into arbitrage rebate problems.
Well, actually, you have to calculate arbitrage from day one once you issue the bonds. But in terms of how quickly you spend it, of course, you want to spend the funds as quickly as you can. I don't think there's. I know I have seen bond issues take up to 5 and 6 years to spend all the money. So I know that it can go out for longer than 3 or 4 years.
But you can if you choose to sell the bonds in series and not necessarily all at one time.
Yes, but when we made the choice to sell the bonds, they were all sold at one point in time, and so we didn't elect that option back when we sold the bonds.
Okay, so we'll be okay as far as arbitrage rebate is concerned because it will be, when do we do that? 18 and now it's 20?
Yes.
So, but we're not going to run into any arbitrage rebate problems.
We're in the process of getting our arbitrage calculations done for the audit right now, And I don't imagine that with the prevailing interest rates that we've had, that we're going to run into an upside down issue. But nevertheless, we are in the process of going through those calculations. They have to be done each year until the bonds are spent in their entirety.
Yeah. So I guess as long as the interest rate on the bond exceeds the interest that you can earn out in the marketplace, I guess you'll be okay, right?
That would be correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Anderson has his hand up.
I got an idea. So since we have the money and the money was voted to fix Camp Wisdom in Maine, why don't we take some of those plans and fix Camp Wisdom in Maine up the best we can? Why don't we make the area walkable across the streets, connect the Kroger shopping center up and connect all the way to the QT and past and fix that. Why don't we fix that intersection up the best we can, create good crosswalks, the best we can with what we got, and bring the sidewalks and street improvements out on Camp Wisdom as far as they can go. And we could that's what the money was voted for. I mean, that's why we didn't vote the other one in. Why don't we take it and improve that intersection the best we can? And I think just improving the crosswalks across there and all the sidewalks and those would help bring people from apartments that live over in those apartments over to Kroger and vice versa, back and forth to QT and those places, and connect it up, be ready to connect it up to something else in the future. Connect up the rest of Camp Wisdom or the rest of Maine or whatever we want to do there. And that way the money's spent right back where it was supposed to go. And that's part of that plan anyway. They gave us, Ramey, didn't they? They gave us some drawings and some plans for it of what we could do with it without changing the hump. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. It was still about almost $3 million, 2.6 million.
Well, let's do what we can. Let's take what we can, at least fix the intersection. I'm not talking about taking the hump out. I'm talking about just fixing all the sidewalks and stuff around there and fixing up the intersection the best we can with what we got. I mean, we only got what we got. So let's do what we can with it.
Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Hager.
I think you're getting a little far afield from your agenda item. I don't mean to cut off your debate. I'm sure it's a conversation you need to have, but the agenda item was whether or not we're going to have a citizens committee. If you need to discuss this further, which it sounds like you do, we need to put an agenda item for you to have that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. So let's, I don't think we've come to any decision on it. I do like what Mr. Anderson has just proposed, matter of fact, but Mr. Ramey, if you could put together something to help the council see where this 1.5 billion could be spent as close to appropriately as possible for what it was intended for, I think we'd appreciate that.
We'll bring something back.
Okay. All right, that brings us to the end of our briefing session. So we'll be closing the briefing session at 7:30.
Mayor and council, I would assume that you want to move the executive session to the end of your meeting tonight.
That is correct, Mr. Hager. Yes, we'll need to do that. So what we'll now do is go ahead and formally call to order the Duncanville City Council meeting for December the 15th for 2020. And the timestamp on that is going to be 7:31. And I have pre-read all the supplemental notice of meeting. I just will read about citizen comments. We do have one citizen comment that I have received, and from what I understand, that individual is opting for me to read that individual's comment rather than that individual coming online with us. So I will take care of that when we get there. So we have formally been called to order now for our city council meeting at 7:31. The audience is in listen-only mode. Citizens who registered to speak with city secretary by the 4 p.m. deadline will be allowed to speak. City secretary, we do not have any of those other than the one input that I received in writing. Is that correct?
Correct, sir.
All right. So each council member, as we've done already in our briefing session, if you wish to speak, please use your the raise hand option out of the chat feature or give a physical sign. And either I or Kristen will always help in getting these together. All the votes that we do will be taken as a roll call vote. And so we're going to put executive session at the end of city council. So with that, it's time for our invocation. So Councilmember Mac Burnett, would you give us our invocation, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Blessed Father, we want to thank you for the blessings you bestowed upon us, the gift that you've given us, and that we may use the gifts and use your wisdom and guidance to help us with what we do. Open our hearts and minds, and we ask this in your Son's name, of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you. If you would please rise and independently say the pledges to our flags, the United States and Texas. All right, thank you very much. And moving on to item number 1 is mayor's report. I just have a couple things to touch on very, very briefly. First thing is that I want to thank everybody for their thoughts and prayers for my and my wife's recovery from COVID-19. This puppy is no fun, folks. Continue to please wear your mask, stay safe, wash your hands, and do everything you can to not catch this puppy. It's the long-lasting effects from friends that we know and some things that my wife and I are still experiencing. So do everything you can to not contract this COVID-19. Second thing, in terms of conducting some city business, I just mentioned that the North Central Texas Council of Governments, RTC, the Regional Transportation Committee, with the unfortunate and sudden and tragic passing of Mayor Curtis-Dean McCowan, Mayor McCowan occupied a seat on the RTC representing 6 cities in South Dallas County. Those 6 cities are Cedar Hill, DeSoto, Duncanville, Lancaster, Glen Heights, and Hutchins. And I, last year, well, the year before, was elected by the mayors of those 6 cities to be the alternate on the RTC, and Mayor McCowan was primary. And with her unfortunate passing, it became necessary for us, those 6 cities, to select the primary representative on the RTC representing the 6 cities. So the mayors of the 6 cities did do that process in accordance with the bylaws of the RTC and with the assistance of the administrator of the RTC at the Council of Governments. And the vote was taken, and the 6 mayors voted me to be the primary to replace Mayor Cowan, and to select Mayor Steve Mason of Cedar Hill as the alternate. So that vote was completed by the 6 mayors last week. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention that formally now I am the primary for the RTC for the 6 cities, and Mayor Steve Mason of Cedar Hill is the official alternate. That concludes my mayor's report. Any city council members' reports? Mr. Cooks.
Yes, I have one. Thank you, Mayor, and to our audience here. First of all, I want to take the time out to first wish all the citizens a Merry Christmas. I believe this is our last meeting before Christmas. And so I want to take the time out to tell each and every one to Merry Christmas to you and your family. And I hope again that you will stay safe with all of the stuff that's going on and around. We're blessed now to have the vaccine that's out there. So I hope that many will be able to take advantage of that in our local city. As I mentioned earlier, though, with our Meet, Connect, and Learn, I had a special edition, Christmas edition, and I had an opportunity to drive around District 4. And really, I didn't stop at District 4. I cheated. I wanted to drive around and see our entire city. So I did just that. And so I'm going to ask if Christian or someone will put that slide up. So I called it the Meet, Connect, and Learn Holiday Edition. Enjoying the holiday lights while riding through Duncanville. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to see some of the lights that I took a picture of while I was there. So we'll just kind of keep going through them. You see 2 homes in District 4 that we recognize. So those, again, this is all over the District 4. There's a couple of other homes where people just lit up their homes, lighting up their home. And I'm continuing to doing that up until Saturday on Facebook on a storyline. So you'll see, maybe you may see your home in these pictures as I go through District 4. And then at the end on Sunday, I have at least 4 recognition awards that look at the beautiful home at the end of that. So this gentleman over in very close to Upper Daniel, as you can tell, at bottom home, you guys owe it to yourself to go at least drive by. He has his door open. He has Santa out there. We have one couple that has Santa Claus. They're dressed up as Mr. and Mrs. Claus, and that was in one neighborhood that I drove through. So I just want to recognize our citizens for decorating their homes in lights for this holiday season. Congratulations. That's all for the pictures. Thank you. Also want to thank staff for a great job on the tree lighting. Mayor Pro Tem McInerney did a great job in place of the mayor not being able to be there. But again, Merry Christmas to all. And I hope you guys, including our council, have a Merry Christmas. And remember, Jesus is the reason for the season. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Jamison.
Yes, I would also like to tell everyone Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a safe and happy holiday. And I thought that I would add, since we were talking about the coronavirus, that my daughter, who's second year medical school, is signed up to have a vaccine because they work in the hospital in San Antonio on Wednesday at 12:45. Pfizer, it's the first vaccine, and then 21 days, they get the second one. So there's some of us, she's born and bred Duncanville, so there's some of us getting vaccines, and they're coming. So I hope that we can slow this down or stop it altogether, and everyone be well. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you. Any, Mr. Anderson?
I would just like to make an announcement out there that, you know, in the coming year, getting ready for the coming year, thinking about what Duncanville wants to be as it grows forward, and thinking about Duncanville being a place that's doesn't have large amounts of land, but we do have lots of small opportunities out there for locals to start their own business, for us to have like little boutique, you know, legendary, what I'd call legendary businesses. We have many places on Main Street and Camp Wisdom and Wheatland to fill in with those kind of business. And so if any of the council or, you know, any of you citizens out there, or I know of people right now that are moving, that are selling their houses in Oak Cliff, that are making a lot of money, and they're coming down here and they're moving into Duncanville. And I'm hoping that they'll move their businesses down here too. And so we're a city that really should be filled with these boutique, small, you know, local businesses. And that's what makes a city great, is when it has that local flavor, that culture. And that's where culture comes from. And so I just encourage anybody out there that's listening that wants to start, maybe their own business or wants to build their own building to come and consider Duncanville. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo Merry Christmas wishes to the entire community, as been said by the other council members. I will say, though, to Councilmember Cooks, I didn't see my house on one of your pictures. You said you drove through the whole city, but now I did recognize one of the houses at the very start of the video. And so, it sure would be nice, just for equal time, if you could redo that thing and make sure that my house is one of those pictures. Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate that, sir. And I will tell the committee that went through there to make sure they stop by the Harvey house and each one of your houses to take that picture. Turn the lights on, sir. Turn the lights on. Santa's on the way.
Any other council members' reports? Okay, thank you very much. Seeing none, we will move on. City manager's report.
Yeah, Mayor, members of council, I just want to, for those that may not know, I just want to announce that our Economic Development Director, Ms. Jessica James, is leaving the city of Duncanville effective December 31st for new opportunities. She's going to become the new director for the city of Benbrook. And just wanted to, congratulate her, but also thank her for her years of service with the city of Duncanville, the contributions that she's made. She will be missed, I know, by many in the community, but I just wanted to say thank you to her and wish her well. This will be her last council meeting, so just wanted to pass that on.
Thank you, Mr. Frederickson, and to Jessica. I know that I see that you're on. We do wish you well, and thank you so much for your years of service to our city, and many blessings to you in your future endeavors. Moving on to item number 2, we do not have any proclamations and presentations. Item number 3 is citizens input. I do have one item to read, and this is from Patricia Ebert, 115 South Greenstone Lane. And she says, the lighted Christmas stroll at Armstrong Park is an outdoor delight. Kudos to the Parks Department staff for their creativeness in completing this fun family outing. And read the briefing for fire station number 1. Question, does the city own land to build fire station number 1? And second paragraph, the last I heard was the October 7, 2020 Channel 11 news story about Canaan Baptist Church's cease and desist order against the city of Duncanville. As was mentioned just now in the briefing, the city does, the plot of land for fire station number 1 has been laid out, and it does not include that particular piece of land that was part of discussion. So moving on to our consent agenda. We will, the city secretary, Kristen Downs, would you please read consent agenda and recall that we have moved items A, B, and C of item number 5 to the consent agenda.
Item 4A, consider the minutes for the October 20th joint meeting with Planning and Zoning Commission and the October 20th City Council regular meeting. 4B, consider a resolution authorizing the second option to renew for an additional 1-year period beginning November 27, 2020 and ending November 26, 2021 for IFB-19-001 traffic signal maintenance services with Siemens Mobility, Inc. with an estimated amount up to $156,610. 4C, consider a resolution canvass of returns and declaration of results for a runoff election. 5A, consider a resolution authorizing awards bid number IFB-21-002 to Pavecon Public Works LP for street reconstruction and subsurface utility improvements project at East Daniel Dell Road from South Main Street to US 67 Service Road through the city's competitive bid process with an estimated expenditure amount not to exceed $6,581,962.21. 5B, consider a resolution authorizing award of for IFB-21-001 Green Tree Lane water and wastewater utility improvements from 1700 to 1800 Green Tree Lane to FM Utilities LLC through the city's competitive bid process with an estimated amount up to $1,105,499.35. 5C, consider a resolution approving the terms and conditions of professional engineering services agreement PSA-21-007 for construction management services for Daniel Dell Road, street and subsurface utilities reconstruction from Main Street to US 67 with Dunway Associates and the proposed amount of $157,030.
Thank you, City Secretary Downs. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent items.
Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? We have a second from Councilmember Vera Cruz. City Secretary, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Vera Cruz, 4 are against.
4.
Mayor Pro Tem Mac Burnett, 4 are against.
4.
Councilmember Anderson, 4 are against.
4.
Councilmember Cooks, 4 are against.
4.
Councilmember Jameson, 4 are against.
4.
At large, Councilmember Harvey, 4 are against.
4.
Mayor Gordon, 4 are against.
4. Thank you. The motion is unanimously approved. Before moving on, just a sidebar comment that inside all of that information on the consent agenda was the canvassing of returns of the elections, and would like to congratulate Mayor Pro Tem Mac Burnett on being reelected for District 2 of 52% of the vote. So that was in the canvassing. Just wanted to say that, and welcome back, Mr. Mac Burnett. Ms. Jameson.
I didn't realize that was in the consent. I thought that one was left out of the consent, but congratulations, Dawn. Also, I think we need to talk about the amount of money that was spent on the polling places. We need to have that as an agenda item because this was ridiculous. For the runoff, there was over $11,000 spent, and I can't even remember how many polling places, and there were several that had no votes. It was ridiculous, and we have to pay if we have a race, and that was one district is all it was. If we have a race, we pay for it. If the schools have a race, they pay for it. If the county has a race, they pay for it, and we all, take part in paying for it. But this, as I understand, was we were not asked how many polling places that we wanted, and we were just told. And I'm saying this because the amount was on this agenda item. It said over $11,000 was spent for the runoff, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, City Secretary, would you make a note for our next City Council meeting to put that on the agenda, please, for discussion? Thank you very much. Okay. We're moving on to items number 5, items for individual consideration. Items 5A, B, and C have been voted on as consent. And moving on to item number 5D. 5D, consider resolution accepting the conveyance from Dallas County of real property and improvement located at 100 East Wheatland Road, parens Dallas County Sub Courthouse Tax Office, close parens, to the city of Duncanville. This is turning over to our Economic Development Director, Jessica James. Jessica, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. As the mayor just stated, this agenda item is in relation to the conveyance of the real property located at 100 East Wheatland Road, which the community knows as the Dallas County Tax Office. Next slide, please. The former Dallas County Tax Office, located at 100 East Wheatland Road, has a deed restriction that requires the county to convey the property back to the city if the county determines that they have no further use for the property. Dallas County has completed the new South Dallas Government Center and relocated their tax office services from Duncanville to the new location there on Polk Street on South Polk in Dallas. On December 1st, the Commissioners Court deliberated an executive session, and they did agree that they had no further use for the site or the property, and they conveyed it back to the city. There is no cost to the city for the accepting of this conveyance. Obviously, there would be future costs for having ownership of the property. But so this evening, the consideration for council would be to accept that conveyance of that property. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. James. So the only item before us is for consent to accept the property. And I will say that it is not up at this point in time for discussion of what's to be used or what the property is to be used for. That's going to be a totally separate item at some other point in time. So this is an item for acceptance to accept this property. Chair will accept a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Mr. Cooks has made a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion second.
Mr. McMahon has seconded. City Secretary, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Veracruz, for or against?
For.
Mayor Pro Tem McBurnett, for or against?
For.
Councilmember Anderson, for or against?
For.
Councilmember Cooks, for or against?
For.
Councilmember Jameson, for or against?
I would like to say, was it pointed out that they wanted $10 for it?
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty good deal. Absolutely, I'm for it. We finally have a good deal.
At-large Councilmember Harvey, for or against?
For.
Mayor Gordon, for or against?
Or thank you for unanimous approval of that resolution, City Council. Okay, that concludes our open meeting business, and it's time for us to recess.
Mayor, do you want to, are there any questions on the Economic Development Quarterly Report?
I'm sorry. I'm reading, just going down the road here. Yeah, what we can do is go ahead and take care of item number 6, which is receive the Economic Development Department Quarterly Report. We have been provided that previously. If there's any questions for Ms. James, please let us know. Okay, not seeing any. Thank you very much, Jessica, for that. And thank you too for putting that all together. Appreciate that.
Mayor, I did just want to say thank you, Jessica, for your service, and good luck to you going forward.
Thank you so much.
Ditto, Jessica.
Good luck out there.
And for me personally, going on to the EDC with no background whatsoever and serving with Mark as the president and myself as vice president, very instructional, educational time to serve on the EDC with you. Thank you very much, Jessica, and best to you in your future. Thank you. Okay, we're going to recess our city council meeting at 7:55. All right, the timestamp is 9:47. We are reconvening city council. And for the record, Councilmember Jameson is having technical difficulties coming back on. We regret that she's having those difficulties, but we are going to proceed. We are coming out of executive session as well, and we do have some action to be taken as a result of executive session. So these matters are going to be taken separately as they are presented to us by our city attorney. City attorney will read the motions, and then we will have motions, seconds, and take a roll call vote on each one individually. So, Mr. Hager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. As a result of the executive session, I'd ask you to consider the following motion. Motion to authorize the Office of the City Attorney to file a lawsuit against Eon Reality Company for breach of contract, breach of lease, and other appropriate legal remedies to collect any and all outstanding balances.
Is there a motion?
Mayor,
Mr. McBurnett has made a motion. Mr. Cooks has seconded. Roll call vote. City Secretary, please.
Councilmember Veracruz, for or against?
For.
Mayor Pro Tem McBurnett, for or against?
for.
Councilmember Cooks, for or against?
For.
At large, Councilmember Harvey, for or against?
For.
Mayor Gordon, for or against?
For. Thank you. The motion has passed.
You missed me. You missed me.
Oh, fine. Sorry.
Sorry, Monty. Councilmember.
Four.
Sorry about that.
Okay, the motion has passed. Moving on to item number 2, City Attorney, Mr. Hager.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I'd ask you to consider the additional motion coming out of executive session is a motion to approve a contract of employment with Aretha Farrell Benavides based on the salary and deferred compensation previously discussed by council under the same terms and conditions as discussed by council, except for change in the language in 3.07 and 13.02 as reflected in the memorandum that I sent to you earlier today, which are basically language cleanups with regard to the waiver of health insurance and the cap of $7,500 on moving expenses, and with the addition of the following language. The employee's duties will require the use of a vehicle. The city agrees to provide a take-home vehicle for business use only by the city manager. With any use of the city manager's personal vehicle, the city agrees to reimburse the city manager for usage of her personal vehicle at the federal IRS rate, and authorize the mayor to sign such contract.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Harvey has made a motion to approve, and Mr. Veracruz has seconded. City Secretary, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Veracruz, for or against?
For.
Mayor Pro Tem McBurnett, for or against?
For.
Councilmember Anderson, for or against?
Against.
Councilmember Cooks, for or against?
For.
At large, Councilmember Harvey, for or against?
For.
Mayor Gordon, for or against?
For. Motion has passed. Moving on to
Mayor and Council, also, I failed to mention, and for the record, that the start date for the new city attorney, or for the new city manager, will be February the 22nd, 2021.
Correct.
Understood by everybody, yes.
That is understood. Thank you. Yes.
The final motion for this evening coming out of executive session is a motion to continue the contract with Paul Frederickson as interim city manager under the same current terms and conditions and salary until February 21st, 2021, authorizing the mayor to sign.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Cooks and the second by Mr. McBurnett. Roll call vote, Secretary, please.
Councilmember Veracruz, for or against?
For.
Mayor Pro Tem McBurnett, for or against?
For.
Councilmember Anderson, for or against?
For.
Councilmember Cooks, for or against?
For.
At large, Councilmember Harvey, for or against?
For.
Mayor Gordon, for or against?
For. Thank you. Motion has passed.
Mayor, that concludes our business coming out of executive session.
Thank you very much, City Attorney Mr. Hager. And that does conclude our city council meeting for December the 15th. Before departing, personal note of thanks to Mr. Frederickson for the outstanding work that he's done, standing in as interim city manager and continuing on until the arrival of our new city manager. So, Paul, deepest heartfelt thanks personally, and I know I speak for all of the council and all the staff as well. I mean, tomorrow morning, the staff is going to learn what's transpired tonight here as well. So thank you very much. God bless everyone. Stay well, stay safe. We are adjourning at 9:53.